how to become wealthy in your 20s, how much to prioritize on money, a plan for building your wealth, and what it can do for you, what it won't do for you, to put things in perspective. So welcome in, fam. Much love, Trav here. Especially if you're in your 20s, but if you're older, this video is going to help you. I'm going to share my own philosophy about money. I'm going to share my own strategy and story of how I was able to build wealth. And I'm going to put it in perspective by explaining how wealth has really improved my life and other areas where it really hasn't affected things. So if that sounds useful to you and interesting to you, and I promise you're going to get some really good advice that you're not going to find elsewhere on the internet, because there's other people who are giving advice on how to build wealth, but they haven't traveled as much or been as healthy or enjoyed nature or built as much community and relationships. There's other people who have their own perspective, but I have a unique perspective that's going to benefit you in a unique way. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure to hit the thumbs up button. Make sure to turn on the notifications so you get this video. So before I tell you how I built wealth, we'll start off by saying that in your philosophy for your 20s, it's really important for you to not disregard your health. The health is the most important thing. So it's really important you get good sleep. It's important you spend a lot of money on high quality food, spend a lot of time on learning about health and setting good habits. And that's way more important than money, because if you look at a lot of these people who have generated wealth, you just see in their skin, in their bodies, that they're not really well. It limits how good they're gonna feel. And it's really hard to reverse that later on to become healthy. It's much easier if you start healthy. You're gonna have a higher baseline of happiness. Health really is wealth, and it's gonna allow you to also have more energy later on and more strategy for how to build your wealth and handle the money stuff. Also in your 20s, you have an opportunity for age-appropriate experience of traveling and learning language and being with other young people that you won't necessarily get later in life. So that's because you're gonna have kids, or when you're in your 40s, it's just not the same you go live in a hostel or go travel to Thailand or Mexico or wherever. So I recommend getting those experiences where you're young. You're gonna be glad and have those memories to think back on. However, for me, I actually wish that I had gone back, and if I could go back, I would take building wealth more seriously earlier, because you're gonna realize that to fulfill your potential, to be able to start a family and provide properly for the family is going to take some amount of wealth. Money is fuel for your dreams. It shouldn't overtake having a mission and a purpose. And again, in your 20s, part of your age-appropriate experience is trying a bunch of different jobs and seeing not just what makes money, but what you like to do, because how you devote your time is ultimately more important, because you can always trade time for money, but you can sort of trade money for time, but you can't ever go back in time. Okay, so I just want to put things in perspective that money is important, but there's other things. And I'm going to come back later and I'm going to tell you how, after I've basically become wealthy, like what's changed, what's not changed. Okay, so how I built my wealth. Now I'm going to tell you this. This isn't like a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not at all. It's also not a business opportunity. It's not something you might be able to copy exactly, but you can take some principles from it. The first thing is, I spent most of my 20s trying to start different businesses, and I had one somewhat successful business that I've been running for 5 years. It's a niche coaching business. I call it a business because I had at the most 5 or 6 people working for me at one time, and I didn't have to be there, so it sort of ran without me, which allowed me to do other things. And I read a tremendous amount of books. I hired a lot of teachers and coaches, and I took a lot of courses. I invested a lot of money in my knowledge. I spent a lot of money on Facebook ads. I spent a lot of money, but made a good amount of money through that. While having that business, I also had a one-on-one coaching practice. I wouldn't necessarily call it a business, because I was trading my time for money for life coaching for some of you guys. So I have my business, I have my practice, and also at the same time I had my job. So yeah, for 3.5 years I've had a job with the business and a practice. So three main sources of income, additional sources as well, because I had side hustles in my job, but I got a lot of different streams of income coming in, living a relatively frugal life. Could have afforded a more expensive car, but I usually get a $2,000 car because it runs, it works, and that's allowed me to save a whole lot of money. So I saved a lot of money, right? Saving money is key to building wealth. Also, there's some luck involved. You can't copy this, but there's death in my family, and I received some inheritance to pool that into my own savings, my own wealth. I received stimulus from the government. I took all that money, and I not only did I read all these books on business, but I read a huge amount of books on the economy and history and money, monetary policy, monetary history, and I talked about some of these books before, which gave me an idea of what to do. So book reading is probably the number one most important thing that helped me build wealth. Book reading and just spending a lot of time. So I took all that money and I pooled it into Bitcoin in 2020, and I took out loans against the Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin, and then I took out loans against that Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin, and I took out loans a third time against that Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin, and I've since paid off my loans, but it's at a point where I don't have fuck you money yet, but it's on a trajectory towards that. I'm definitely pretty far above my age, so I can say I'm above most people. So this advice is coming from a real place, and you can see that some of these things you'll be able to copy, some of these things you can't copy. I read a ton of books. That's a huge thing. Put in a lot of work. Started business. Hustled my ass off. Saved a lot of money, and got some luck. Good luck and bad luck, and took out risk, took out loans, took out debt, made some moves, and in a position where, I guess if I was living in the mainland, I'd be pretty set, but living in Oahu, it's expensive here. My plans are keep working for a couple years, let my nest egg continue to build, and then buy my own land, start my family, do some sort of homestead out here, business, live a more relaxed life. That's a couple years out, most likely. So that's something that wealth is doing for me. It's like, wow, I have this amazing vision for the future. I could buy property or land now. If I wait, I can buy better property. I don't have to hustle quite as hard. I don't need to run all these businesses or do all this one-on-one if I don't want to. I can focus more on my health. I can go surfing more. I can focus more on my job. I could quit my job. I could change my role. I have more time in the day. I have less stress about money, paying the bills, more confidence, not worrying like buying food, just pay for everything for my girlfriend, send gifts to family, not really worry too much about money. I could buy a Tesla, a Cybertruck if I wanted. I'm gonna wait. It's like money definitely has made a big difference. I could go travel, do more traveling. So there's a lot of positives for money. Those are the things that you could expect, but things that it hasn't affected, like the search for meaning has little to do with money. So it hasn't changed my life very much. I'm just continuing to do my job and my work. I'm continuing to do YouTube, even though I really demonetized it and make very little from it. So it hasn't, just hasn't changed as much as you would expect. At least in the short term. I think in the longer term it might. It hasn't solved a lot of the problems that I have in my life. There's a lot of good from living in community, but there's also negative. Money doesn't solve my personal relationship issues. Money doesn't. You still have those people problems, and the people problems are the most important problems, at least the way our brain processes them, because once we're such social people, that's really what we care about. It's freed me up in some ways, but in other ways it's occupies more time. In other ways it just hasn't changed things very much. It's like it's easier to be healthier, sort of, but it's the same. It's like the people around me didn't suddenly come into wealth, so we're not go spend money together necessarily. Keep a low, obviously talking a lot in this video, but keeping a low profile of not being ostentatious, not wanting to show off and spend and talk about it too much, and wanting to help people. So yeah, that's just coming from my personal experience, and if I got this advice when I was 20, in my early 20s, I think it would have made a big difference. I definitely didn't care that much, waited, made excuses, didn't start investing, made the minimum and skirted by. And but at the same time, I think that if I did anything right, it was to focus on my mission, what I care about, my passion, to focus on traveling and figuring out where I want to live, focus on my health, becoming really fit and healthy, and learning and knowledge and so on. So hope that gives you a plan, puts things in perspective, gives you some ideas of what you can do. I promise, just reading a lot of books, it seems you won't see the payoff for years probably, but it'll, like, I was able to do this. Why was I able to make these right decisions? It's because of the study. So you could do that too. You could do that part too. Your story might be a little different in how you make the money, how you invest the money, your risk tolerance, what risk you take, what luck you get or don't get. But hope you found that helpful. If you found it helpful, please hit a thumbs up. If you've got a friend who y'all are on your grind together, whether that's your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your spouse, or your best friend, your coworkers, send this video to them, get on the same page, get some ideas for what you want to do in the future and how you're going to get there. And again, hit the thumbs up. If this found useful, please comment. I'll share more. Don't necessarily like to share that much about myself all the time, but I felt like I want to help people out, especially y'all young folks who have so much future and so much potential. So thank you, appreciate you, and again, please comment down below. Now, time for breakfast. Peace out. It's a nice spot, huh? And what do you if you made it to the very end, is this a better view? What do you think? Comment down below. You like the grass and the forest? Or do you like the ocean? Let me know. Okay? Peace.